The day started like any other on Earth. People went about their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. As the sun rose over New York City, a strange signal appeared on screens worldwide. At the United Nations headquarters, diplomats and leaders gathered in shock. The big screen in the main hall flickered to life, showing a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. It had blue skin, 4 eyes, and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "People of Earth," the alien said, "we are the Zoraks. Your planet has been chosen for colonization. You have 30 Earth days to surrender or face total destruction." The room erupted in chaos. Some people screamed, others fainted, and a few brave souls stood up to shout questions. But the alien had already vanished, leaving behind only a countdown clock. In Washington, D.C., President Sarah Chen sat in the Oval Office, her face pale with worry. Her advisors rushed in, each talking over the other. "Madam President," General Mike Thompson said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes, "we need to act fast." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "Get me the other world leaders on the line, and find our best scientists. We need answers, and we need them now." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Moscow, Beijing, London, and every capital city, leaders struggled to make sense of the threat. People poured into the streets, some in panic, others in anger. Dr. Aisha Patel, a brilliant physicist from India, was eating breakfast when she got the call. "Dr. Patel, we need you in New Delhi immediately," the voice on the phone said. She didn't hesitate, grabbing her laptop and rushing out the door. In a small town in Brazil, Carlos Mendoza, a former Special Forces soldier, watched the news with growing concern. His phone buzzed with a message. "Report to base." Code red. He kissed his family goodbye, not knowing if he'd ever see them again. As day turned to night, the world's top minds gathered in a secret underground facility. Dr. Patel and Carlos found themselves sitting next to each other, surrounded by scientists, soldiers, and spies from every nation. General Thompson stood at the front of the room, his face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face the greatest threat in human history, but we will not go down without a fight." Dr. Patel raised her hand. "General, with all due respect, we can't possibly match their technology. How can we hope to defend ourselves?" The room fell silent. It was the question on everyone's mind. Suddenly, an old man in the back of the room stood up. Professor James Chen, a historian known for his wild theories about ancient civilizations. "What if," he said, his voice shaking with excitement, "we already have the technology to fight back?" Everyone turned to look at him. Some rolled their eyes, but General Thompson leaned forward, interested. "Explain, Professor," he said. "I spent my life studying ancient artifacts," Professor Chen continued. "I believe our ancestors were far more advanced than we thought, and I think I know where we can find proof." As he spoke, a spark of hope ignited in the room. Maybe, just maybe, humanity had a chance. Carlos listened intently, his military mind already forming strategies. Dr. Patel's fingers flew over her keyboard, running calculations and theories. General Thompson nodded, a plan forming in his mind. "All right, people, we have work to do. Professor Chen, you'll lead a team to find these artifacts. Dr. Patel, I want you to head up our research efforts. And Mr. Mendoza, you'll be in charge of training our defense forces." As the meeting broke up, people rushed to their tasks with newfound purpose. The countdown clock ticked away, but now there was hope. Outside, the world waited in fear, but in this room, and in similar rooms around the globe, humanity was preparing to make its stand. Dr. Patel looked at Carlos and smiled nervously. "Do you think we can do this?" she asked. Carlos nodded, his jaw set with determination. "We have to," he said, "for all of us." As they left the room, neither of them knew the incredible journey that lay ahead, but they were ready to face it, for the sake of humanity's last stand. The sun barely peeked over the horizon when Professor Chen's team set out. They boarded a sleek, unmarked plane, destination unknown to most. Dr. Patel sat next to Carlos, both nervous and excited. "Where are we going?" she whispered to the old professor. Chen's eyes twinkled. "Egypt," he said. "The answers we seek are buried in the sands of time." As the plane soared over continents back at the secret base, General Thompson coordinated a global effort. Scientists from every country worked around the clock, pooling their knowledge. In Egypt, the team landed near the Great Pyramid. Armed guards surrounded them, keeping curious onlookers at bay. Professor Chen led them to a hidden entrance, one that wasn't in any guidebook. "How did you know about this?" Carlos asked, his soldiers' instincts on high alert. "Some secrets," Chen replied with a smile, "are passed down through generations." They entered the dark tunnel, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Dr. Patel's heart raced as they went deeper into the pyramid. After what felt like hours, they reached a large chamber. "This can't be," Dr. Patel gasped. The room was filled with technology that looked both ancient and futuristic. Strange symbols covered the walls, and in the center stood a pedestal with a glowing orb. Professor Chen approached it carefully. "This," he said, "is what I've been searching for my entire life." As he touched the orb, the room came to life. Holograms appeared, showing star maps and weapon designs far beyond current human capabilities. "It's a database," Dr. Patel realized, her fingers flying over the strange controls. "Our ancestors. They knew about the aliens. They prepared for this." Carlos examined the weapon designs. "These could turn the tide," he said, hope in his voice. Back at the base, General Thompson received their excited call. "Bring everything you can," he ordered. "We're running out of time." As Chen's team worked to transport their discovery, other teams around the world made similar finds. In the mountains of Peru, explorers uncovered an ancient hangar filled with sleek spacecraft. Deep in the forests of Japan, a hidden dojo revealed secrets of energy manipulation that defied physics. Each discovery brought new hope, but also new challenges. The technology was advanced, but damaged or incomplete. It would take all of humanity's ingenuity to make it work again. Dr. Petal found herself working day and night, trying to decipher the ancient knowledge. Carlos helped where he could, his practical experience often providing insights the scientists missed. One night, as they pored over the data, Dr. Patel made a breakthrough. "Carlos," she shouted, startling him awake. "I think I've figured out how to power the weapons." Their excitement was short-lived. An alarm blared through the base. General Thompson's voice came over the speakers. "We've detected multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere. It's them. They're early." Panic spread through the base. They weren't ready. The weapons weren't complete, the defenses not fully in place. But as fear threatened to overwhelm them, Carlos stood up. His voice cut through the chaos. "Listen up," he shouted. "We've uncovered the legacy of our ancestors. They believed in us, prepared for this moment. We can't let them down. We won't." His words rallied the team. Dr. Patel nodded, determination replacing fear in her eyes. "He's right," she said. "We've come too far to give up now." Around the world, similar scenes played out. Humanity, faced with an impossible deadline, dug deep and found strength they never knew they had. As the alien ships descended, a strange calm settled over the Earth. In labs and workshops, on military bases, and in hidden bunkers, humans worked with grim determination. The aliens thought they were facing a primitive, helpless species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Professor Chen looked at the team he brought together. "Whatever happens," he said, "remember this moment." This is when humanity stood up and said, "We will not go quietly into the night." With renewed purpose, they turned back to their work. The clock was ticking, but humanity was ready to fight. As alien ships loomed in Earth's sky, humanity raced against time. In every corner of the globe, people worked tirelessly to prepare for the coming battle. At the main base, Dr. Patel hunched over a workbench, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She was trying to make the ancient weapon designs work with modern technology. Sparks flew as she connected wires, muttering calculations under her breath. Nearby, Carlos drilled a group of soldiers. They were learning to use the new weapons, which were unlike anything they'd seen before. "Remember," he shouted, "these aren't just guns. They're a part of you. Feel the energy flow." A young soldier named Maria raised her hand. "But sir, what if they don't work?" Carlos looked her in the eye. "Then we fight with whatever we have. Humanity doesn't give up." In Washington, D.C., President Chen met with world leaders. The room was tense, filled with people who were usually enemies. But today, they had a common goal. "We must unite," President Chen said, her voice firm. "Our differences don't matter now. It's all of us against them." To everyone's surprise, the leaders agreed. Old rivalries were set aside. Resources were shared, armies combined. For the first time in history, Earth stood as one. Meanwhile, in a secret facility under the Alps, Professor Chen led a team working on a special project. They had discovered plans for a planetary shield in the ancient database. "If we can get this working," the old man said, excitement in his voice, "we might be able to protect our cities from their first attack." Engineers from every nation worked side by side, racing to build the massive generators needed for the shield. It was a project that should have taken years, but they didn't have years. They had days. Back at the main base, Dr. Patel finally had a breakthrough. She rushed into the command center, holding what looked like a small gun. "It works," she shouted. "We've done it." General Thompson took the weapon, turning it over in his hands. "Are you sure?" In answer, Dr. Patel aimed at a target on the wall and fired. A beam of blue energy shot out, leaving a smoking hole in the reinforced steel. The room erupted in cheers. For the first time since the aliens arrived, people felt real hope. But their celebration was short-lived. An alarm blared, and screens lit up around the room. The alien ships were moving, getting into attack formation. "How long until they're in range?" General Thompson asked, his voice tense. A technician checked her screens. 6 hours, sir." The general nodded grimly. "Then that's how long we have to get ready. Dr. Patel, can you mass-produce these weapons in time?" She took a deep breath. "We'll have to. I'll need every factory, every 3D printer, everything we've got." "You'll have it," the general promised. He turned to Carlos. "Get your best teams ready. You'll be our first line of defense." As they rushed to their tasks, outside the base, the world held its breath. The alien ships were visible now, dark shapes against the sky. In cities and towns, people huddled in shelters or stood in the streets, looking up in fear and defiance. But they weren't helpless anymore. Around the globe, the new weapons were being distributed. Soldiers and civilians alike learned to use them, determined to defend their home. In orbit, astronauts on the International Space Station worked to turn it into a battle station, using plans found in the ancient database. And deep under the Alps, with minutes to spare, the planetary shield flickered to life. A shimmering dome of energy spread over the Earth's major cities, the last line of defense. As the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, humanity stood ready. They were outnumbered and outgunned, facing an enemy with technology far beyond their own. But they had something the aliens didn't expect: the legacy of their ancestors, the united will of every nation, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The final countdown had begun. Earth was as ready as it could be. Now, it was time to fight. The world held its breath as the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Their massive forms blocked out the sun, casting long shadows over cities and fields alike. In the command center, General Thompson watched the screens with a grim expression. "They're here," he said quietly. Dr. Patel stood beside him, her hands shaking slightly. Carlos gripped his new weapon tightly, ready for action. Suddenly, All communication devices around the world crackled to life. The deep, rumbling voice of the Zorax leader filled the air. "Humans," it said, "your time is up. Surrender now or face extinction." President Chen stepped forward, her face set with determination. She pressed a button, broadcasting her response to both the aliens and every corner of Earth. "We will not surrender," she declared, her voice strong and clear. "This is our home, and we will defend it. We are not the helpless species you think we are." For a moment, there was silence. Then, unexpectedly, a request came from the alien mothership. They wanted to meet face to face. "It's a trap," Carlos warned, but General Thompson shook his head. "Maybe," he said, "but it's also a chance to learn more about our enemy. We'll go, but we'll be prepared." A small team was assembled. President Chen, General Thompson, Dr. Patel, and Carlos. They boarded a specially equipped aircraft, rising to meet the alien ship. As they entered the massive vessel, they were struck by its advanced technology. Everything pulsed with an eerie blue light. They were led to a large chamber where the Zorax leaders waited. The aliens were even more intimidating up close. Towering over the humans, their four eyes blinked in unison as they studied the Earth delegation. "You surprise us, humans," the lead Zorax said. "We expected you to beg for mercy." President Chen stood tall. "We are not here to beg. We are here to negotiate. Leave our planet in peace, or face the consequences." The aliens laughed, a chilling sound. "Consequences? What could you possibly do to us?" In response, Carlos raised his weapon. The aliens' laughter stopped abruptly. "Impossible," one of them hissed. "That technology, where did you get it?" Dr. Patel stepped forward. "We built it," she said proudly. "It turns out we're full of surprises." The lead Zorax's eyes narrowed. "It changes nothing. You are still no match for our armada." "Perhaps," General Thompson said calmly, "but we're willing to fight to the last man, woman, and child." "Can you say the same?" A tense silence fell over the room. The humans could see uncertainty in the aliens' eyes for the first time. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. A Zorax rushed in, panic clear in its voice. "Supreme Leader, the humans. They've activated some kind of shield around their major cities. Our first strike was repelled." The human delegation couldn't hide their smiles. The planetary shield had worked. The lead Zorax turned to them, fury in its eyes. "This meeting is over. Prepare for war, humans. You will regret your defiance." As they were escorted back to their aircraft, Carlos leaned close to Dr. Patel. "I think we rattled them," he whispered. She nodded, a mix of fear and excitement in her eyes. "But now, the real battle begins." They returned to Earth just as the first waves of alien fighters descended from the mothership. The sky lit up with energy blasts as Earth's new defenses engaged the enemy. In the command center, General Thompson barked orders. "Activate all units. This is not a drill. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance." Around the world, soldiers and civilians alike manned their stations. The weapons Dr. Patel had created blazed to life, meeting the alien assault head-on. To everyone's amazement, they were holding their own. The aliens, caught off guard by humanity's unexpected resistance, found themselves in a real fight for the first time. As battles raged in the skies and on the ground, one thing became clear. This would not be the easy conquest the Zorax had anticipated. Humanity was armed, ready, and determined to survive. The war for Earth had begun, and against all odds, humanity had a fighting chance. The sky burned with flashes of light as alien ships clashed with Earth's defenses. In New York, Tokyo, and London, people watched in awe as energy beams crisscrossed above them, the planetary shield flickering under the assault. Carlos led a squad through the streets of Rio de Janeiro. Alien dropships had managed to land troops, and now the fight was on the ground. "Keep moving," he shouted, firing his new weapon at an approaching Zorax soldier. The alien fell, its armor no match for Earth's rediscovered technology. In orbit, the converted International Space Station became humanity's eye in the sky. Moscow is under heavy attack, an astronaut reported. Diverting shield power now. Back at the main base, Dr. Patel worked furiously to keep their weapons running. The power cells are draining too fast, she muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. General Thompson's voice crackled over the comm. We need those weapons, Doctor. The aliens are pushing hard in Europe. I'm trying, she snapped, then took a deep breath. Sorry, sir. I think I can boost the efficiency, but I need time. Time is something we don't have much of, the general replied grimly. Outside, the battle raged on. In Egypt, the pyramids stood silent witness as dogfights raged overhead. Pilots and next-generation fighters, hastily built using ancient designs, weaved between alien craft, their moves unpredictable and fierce. A young pilot named Amir pulled off an impossible maneuver, looping behind an alien ship and blasting it out of the sky. Yahoo! He shouted, then keyed his radio. That's how we do it in Cairo. But for every victory, there was a setback. In Sydney, the shield faltered under concentrated fire. Alien troops poured into the city. This is Captain Nguyen, came a desperate call. We're overwhelmed here. Need immediate backup. President Chen, watching from a secure bunker, made a quick decision. Divert forces from Auckland. We can't lose Sydney. As reinforcements rushed to Australia, a new threat emerged. The Zorax unleashed a massive walker, a machine that towered over buildings. It stomped through Berlin, its weapons laying waste to everything in its path. Nothing's stopping that thing, a terrified soldier reported. But humanity wasn't out of tricks yet. Professor Chen's voice came over the global channel. Attention all units near Berlin. We're activating the Titan protocol. Deep underground, a hangar opened. A humanoid mech, discovered in the ancient ruins and quickly restored, rose to meet the alien walker. Inside the mech, a German pilot named Hans gripped the controls. Let's see how you like a fair fight, he growled, charging towards the walker. The two giants clashed in the heart of Berlin, their battle shaking the very ground. For the first time, the aliens found themselves matched in size and power. As the tide of battle swung back and forth, Dr. Patil finally had a breakthrough. I've done it, she shouted, rushing to the command center. I can triple the output of our weapons, maybe even quadruple it. General Thompson's eyes lit up. Do it. And get that upgrade to every unit you can. Fast. Within hours, the enhanced weapons made their impact felt. Alien ships that had seemed invincible now fell from the sky in droves. On the ground, Earth's soldiers pushed back with renewed vigor. But the Zorax were far from defeated. Their supreme leader, watching the battle from the mothership, snarled in frustration. Enough games, it growled. Prepare the planet killer. As a massive weapon began to charge on the mothership, aimed at the heart of Earth, humanity faced its darkest hour. Victory had seemed within reach, but now extinction loomed once again. In the command center, faces fell as they realized the threat. But Carlos, just returned from the front lines, stepped forward. We didn't come this far to give up now, he said firmly. There's got to be a way to stop that thing. Dr. Patel nodded, determination replacing fear in her eyes. He's right, and I think I know how we can do it. As she outlined her daring plan, a spark of hope reignited. The battle for Earth was far from over, and humanity wasn't ready to go down without a fight. The massive alien weapon loomed over Earth, its deadly energy building. In the command center, Dr. Patel explained her plan, her words rapid and urgent. We can't destroy it from here, she said, pointing to a holographic display. But if we can get a team onto the mothership, we might be able to shut it down from the inside. General Thompson frowned. That's a suicide mission, Doctor. Carlos stepped forward, his face set with determination. I'll lead the team. Dr. Patel looked at him, worry in her eyes. I have to go too. Only I can work the alien tech once we're inside. The general nodded grimly. Assemble your team. You leave in 10 minutes. As they prepared, battles raged across the globe. In the skies over Paris, Amir led a squadron of fighters in a daring attack on a Zorax battleship. Follow my lead, he shouted, diving towards a weak spot they'd discovered. His shots hit home, and the massive ship began to fall. On the ground in Tokyo, Captain Nguyen and her troops pushed back against alien forces. The upgraded weapons cut through Zorax armor like it was paper. Keep going, Nguyen yelled, leading the charge. We're taking back our city. Meanwhile, Carlos and Dr. Patel's team boarded a specially modified shuttle. As they rocketed towards the mothership, Carlos turned to the scientist. Ready for this? He asked. She gave a shaky smile. Not really, but it's our only chance. Their shuttle, using stolen Zorax codes, slipped past the mothership's defenses. They landed in a cargo bay, the team moving quickly to avoid detection. Dr. Petal consulted a handheld device. The main control room should be 3 levels up. They moved through the alien ship, using stealth and their advanced weapons to overcome any resistance. But as they neared their goal, alarms blared. They've detected us, Carlos shouted, firing at oncoming Zorax soldiers. Back on Earth, the situation grew desperate. The planetary shield flickered and failed in several locations. Alien forces poured through the gaps. In Berlin, Hans in his mech suit fought a losing battle against 3 alien walkers. I can't hold them much longer, he called out. Professor Chen's voice came over the comm. Help is on the way, Hans. Just hang on. From underground bases around the world, more mechs and hidden weapons emerge. Humanity's last lines of defense join the fight. On the mothership, Carlos and Dr. Patil finally reached the control room. As Carlos and the team held off waves of aliens, Dr. Patil worked frantically at the main console. I'm in their systems, she said, her fingers flying over the alien controls. But there's so much to sort through. Whatever you're going to do it fast, Carlos yelled, taking down another Zorax soldier. Dr. Patel's eyes widened as she made a discovery. This is incredible. Their entire network is connected. If I can just... She pressed a final sequence of buttons. Suddenly, every Zorax ship and weapon shut down. On Earth, alien crafts fell from the sky. Zorax soldiers stood confused as their weapons and armor failed. In the mothership's control room, the Zorax Supreme Leader burst in, fury in all 4 of its eyes. What have you done? It roared. Dr. Patel stood tall, facing the alien leader. We've given you a choice. Leave our planet in peace, or we'll use your own weapons against you. For a tense moment, it seemed the Zorax leader might attack. But then, seeing its forces defeated, it slumped in defeat. We surrender, it said, the words clearly painful. As cheers erupted across Earth, Carlos put a hand on Dr. Patel's shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You saved us all. She shook her head, smiling. No, we all did it. Every human on Earth played a part. As the sun rose on a battered but undefeated Earth, humanity celebrated its greatest victory. Against all odds, they had turned the tables on their would-be conquerors. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, the end was in sight, and humanity was winning. The sun rose on a new day for Earth. Smoke still arose from battlefields around the world, but a sense of hope filled the air. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defeated the Zorax invasion. In the United Nations building in New York, now bearing scars from the recent battles, world leaders gathered. The room buzzed with excitement and exhaustion. President Chen stood at the podium, facing not just her fellow humans, but also a delegation of defeated Zorax. Today, she began, her voice strong and clear. We come together not just as victors, but as survivors. We have faced our greatest challenge and emerged stronger. The Zorax Supreme Leader, looking much less intimidating now, stepped forward. Its 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of nervousness in their species. "We underestimated you," it admitted. "We thought you were primitive. We were wrong." Carlos, standing guard nearby, couldn't help but smile. Dr. Patel, now hailed as one of Earth's greatest heroes, stood next to him, her eyes bright with unused tears of relief and joy. President Chen nodded at the alien leader. "Your mistake nearly cost us everything. But now, we have a choice. Do we continue this cycle of violence, or do we find a way forward, together?" A murmur ran through the room. Many humans were angry, wanting revenge for the devastation the Orcs had caused. But others saw an opportunity for a new beginning. Professor Chen, his aged face lined with new wrinkles from the stress of war, spoke up. "Our ancestors left us the tools to defend ourselves, but I believe they also hoped we would one day make peace." He held up an artifact they had discovered in the final days of the war. It was a small sphere that projected a hologram of the galaxy. "This shows not just star systems," he explained, "but trade routes, alliances. Our ancestors were part of a galactic community. We can be again." The Orcs leader looked at the hologram, its eyes wide with wonder. "We had legends of such things, but we thought they were myths." Dr. Patel stepped forward, her voice firm but kind. "We've all lost much in this war, but we've also gained knowledge, understanding, perhaps even friends, if we're brave enough to try." President Chen nodded, then turned to the Orcs leader. "We propose a treaty. No more war. Instead, we'll work together, share knowledge, explore the stars as partners, not enemies." The room held its breath as the alien considered the offer. Finally, it extended a hand, a gesture it had learned from observing humans. "We accept," it said. As President Chen shook the alien's hand, cheers erupted around the world. People poured into streets, hugging strangers and crying tears of joy. The war was truly over. In the days that followed, the work of rebuilding began. But it wasn't just Earth that was being rebuilt. A new galactic order was forming. Carlos found himself leading teams that combined humans and Orcs, clearing rubble and raising new buildings. "Never thought I'd be working alongside the aliens," he said to Dr. Patel as they watched a mixed group laugh over a shared joke. She smiled, her eyes on the stars above. "We've taken our first steps into a larger world. Who knows what we'll discover out there?" As Earth's cities rose from the ashes, sleeker and more advanced than before, humanity prepared for its next great adventure. The ancient technology, combined with Orcs' knowledge, allowed for the construction of true starships. 1 year after the invasion, the first joint human-Orcs expedition prepared to leave Earth. Captain Maria, the young soldier who had once doubted their chances, now stood proudly on the bridge of humanity's first starship. As the ship rose into the sky, cheers echoed around the world. Humans and Orcs alike watched in awe as the vessel disappeared into the stars, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two species once at war, now united in peace. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The future, once so dark, now shone brightly with possibility. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, ready to face whatever new adventures or challenges awaited them in the vast expanse of the universe.